If you know that you want so much more from life than you're currently experiencing, but you also know that you are working so hard that you can't possibly work any harder to get it, then I invite you to watch this video to the end, because I'm going to open up your mind just a little bit to help you to understand maybe why that is. So I guess one of the first questions that I want you to ask yourself is, why are you working so hard? What belief system do you have that tells you that you have to work so hard? I had the belief system that told me that nothing in this world is created unless I work really hard for it. Nothing is ever handed to you on a plate. Nothing good comes easily. But what I know now is that that's not actually true. And I'll explain a little bit more about that in just a minute. The other question that I wish I had asked myself is, what am I trying to prove? And to who? You see, especially, I don't know, I'm Gen X, so I don't know if it's different for other generations. Maybe you could let me know in the comments. But Gen X, we were constantly told to prove ourselves. We were always stepping up to the plate. We were always having to justify our existence in some way or another. We were the first generation whose parents went out to work. Like, both parents went out to work if we had two parents, because we were also the generation of major divorces. And I'm not saying that that's bad in any way. If a couple are not happy together, then as far as I'm concerned, they should separate. And I'm also not saying that women shouldn't go out to work. Of course they should. Women are amazing employees and employers. But what that did is it put an awful lot of responsibility onto us, right? Like, for a lot of people, we were stepping into the absent parents' shoes. We felt the responsibility to hold the family together. We felt the responsibility to look after our mum. We felt the responsibility to look after younger siblings. And again, I'm not saying that there's anything inherently bad in that. It's just that it created certain belief systems that, although they made us hardworking and they made us productive, they didn't necessarily help us to live a life that was truly in alignment with all that we can be. So if you are working too hard, if you are stuck on a plateau and you can't get any more successful because there's just no more hours in the day for you to do so, then what energy are you approaching everything that you're doing with? Because if you're approaching it with the energy of proving yourself, if you are approaching it with the belief that this is the only way that you can be successful and this way is really hard and you have to struggle, again, because, nothing good comes easy, then you're operating from a very low frequency. Because along with that, I have to work really hard and it has to be a struggle energy, comes guilt and shame and all the rest when you start feeling tired, when you start feeling burned out. So you have to keep proving, not just to yourself, but to your mum, that you can handle it all. You have to prove to that teacher that called you worthless. You have to keep proving that you're not worthless, that you have value. But unfortunately, we also learned that we're only valuable if we're productive. So if we take time off and we're not being productive, then that means we're not valuable. And when we tell stories like this, we are, like I say, operating from a very low frequency of existence. We are very much operating purely in the physical plane. But when you realize that all of creation is actually created in the mental plane and not on the physical plane, then the physical plane gets easier to deal with. What we also start to realize is that when we purely operate from the physical plane, we're operating from the consciousness of a small, scared child. We're operating from the consciousness of the version of us that had to obey our parents, that had to fit in with society, had to fit in with our family's expectations. So where in your life are you still operating as that version of you? Where are you still operating purely from a state of survival? Because our brains that's what they're there for. Our brains are there to help us survive. They're not there for happiness. They're not there for success. They're not there to be financially rich. They're only interested in helping you to survive. And part of that survival is conformity. So where are you conforming, even though you know that it's not in your greatest good? Now, this is the work that I do with my 6- and 7-figure business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders in their field. I help them to get to the root of what is stopping them from having the more of everything that they want. And we do that on 3 main levels. So on the identity, the beliefs, and getting your physical body relaxed enough to accept the life that you want. That's working with your nervous system. So if that is you, and if that is something that you want, I invite you to join me on a call. The link is in the description. Because 9 times out of 10, what is stopping a person from moving forwards, from actually having the success that they want, actually having the relationships that they want, is a belief system that tells them that they should not have it. And part of that is this need to keep proving yourself. Because along with that proving yourself energy comes this feeling of not enoughness, being not good enough, not intelligent enough, not thin enough, pretty enough, whatever the thing is. But your highest knows that you are. So if you can adopt the consciousness of that higher being, if you can adopt the consciousness of being the person that actually has everything that you want, you'll realize that you are enough exactly as you are right now. You have enough, you know enough. You have no limitations. Okay, put it this way, right? If you're brought up to believe that you, because of the family that you're in, is fantastic at mathematics, you will approach mathematics with the attitude of, this is easy, I can do this. And that opens your brain to actually learning all the formulas and whatever that goes into the mathematics, right? Whereas if you're brought up in a family that says, I've never been good at mathematics, nobody in our family is any good at maths, then you literally close your brain down and you tell yourself, I'm no good at this, I cannot do this. And because you have told yourself that, everything feels harder. So when you approach life and business and everything in your life that you have to keep proving yourself that you are not enough, you approach everything in a way that says, I'm not enough. And life will make you prove that, because life only ever proves you right. We all have a default mode network. It's a network of regions in the brain that tells us who we believe ourselves to be. If your default mode network tells you that you are rubbish with numbers, you are rubbish at mathematics, then your reticular activating system, this other region of your brain that acts as a bouncer, letting through to your consciousness everything that you've told it to be true about you, everything that you've told it is important to you, and you tell it that things are important to you by the repetition of thought. Your reticular activating system will just prove to you, keep bringing your attention to things that show you how bad you are at numbers. So every time you tell yourself that you have to struggle, that life is hard, that this business that you've built is a prison, you're literally sending that into the universe, and your fantastic brain is bringing back all of the proof to prove you right. Every time you tell yourself that you have to prove yourself, you're given the opportunity to do that. So you get to ask the question, well, what do I want my brain to prove me right about? And you get to create that story, and you get to teach your default mode network that this is who you are now. And you get to teach your reticular activating system, this is what's important to me. Isn't life easy? Money comes so easily to me. I get all the clients. I love my life. I love my job. I love my business. And God, Source, Universe, and your clever, clever mind will all say yes. Like I say, I used to operate purely on a very physical level. And because I was operating on a purely physical level from a very low frequency, everything feels so much harder. because you keep perpetually telling yourself the same story of who you are, that you have to work hard in order to get anything at all, that you don't deserve success until you've really, really proven yourself. But when you can rise above and adopt the consciousness of this version of you that has everything that you want with absolute ease, that's what reality starts to show you. So I want you to monitor, what story are you telling yourself? Day in, day out, what is the story that you're saying? Monitor the words that come out of your mouth. How many times a day do you say how hard it is? How many times a day do you tell yourself how tired you are? I used to constantly tell myself I was tired. And then I spent 5 years in bed. So you get to decide your story. You get to decide what state of consciousness you're going to be living from. Are you going to be living the consciousness of a small scared child that has to fit in order to survive? Or are you going to live from the consciousness of the version of you that has everything that they want? This is the free will that you have. When you're able to rise above the small human self and actually see yourself as being so much more than you are, that's when life gets easier. And this is why manifestation, conscious creation, whatever you want to call it, is so fundamental in achieving your next level of success. Because your little human has done all the things that they could do right now. Your little human has played the game incredibly well, which is why you've got the success that you have. But if you want more, it's because you are being called to get more of you into this little human. And when I say get more of you into your human, I mean more of who you actually are. And that is pure love energy. That is pure consciousness. That is the version of you that resides in the spiritual plane. When you do that, you get to experience life differently. You get to create from this higher plane, which feels easier. When we're stuck in our little human on the physical plane, because we are matter trying to change matter, it feels harder. It feels like you're trudging through thick mud instead of flying through the air like you get to experience in the spiritual plane. And this is what I do with my clients. I help you to experience life differently because you are viewing it differently, because you are approaching it differently with a different frequency, a different vibration, and a completely different attitude. So if you're stuck, if you're feeling stuck, because nobody's really stuck, it's just something that we tell ourselves, right? You know that that's your sign to rise above your human, to do things differently. And like I say, that's why conscious creation and manifestation is the next level of leadership. The next level of leadership that allows you to create easily, that allows you the freedom of time, the freedom of finances, without the burdens of the shame and the guilt and everything else that your little human has been taught to experience. And this is something that you can do on your own, but take it from somebody who knows. It's a lot easier to do it with somebody. And that's what I do for my clients, who, like I say, are 6- and 7-figure business owners, entrepreneurs, and leaders in their field. So if you would like help to start moving the needle forwards faster than you can ever believe, then the link to join me on a call is in the description. And if you have any questions about any of this, please put them into the comments and I will respond. Because life really is too short to be spending it living somebody else's life. And when we are constantly trying to prove ourselves, that's exactly what we're doing. We are not living a life that is in true alignment with the life that we want to be living. And when we're living a life that is constantly telling us that we're not enough, that we have to prove ourselves, we are not living in alignment with all that we are. We get to change the story. So those are the questions to ask. Yeah. What am I trying to prove, and who to? Where am I believing that I'm not enough? Where am I acting out of fear instead of knowing. What story am I telling myself every single day? I hope this has helped. I hope this has given you lots of homework to do. Like I say, you can do this on your own, but if you want to go faster, then give us a call. Okay, and you're going to find another video about there, so click on that one next, and I will see you very soon. Take care. Bye.